This was not a baseball play. That was the first thought running through the stadium the moment it happened. Not from the commentators. Not from the managers. From the fans sitting in the stands, from the players standing in the dugout, from anyone who had eyes on that moment at Dodger Stadium on Friday night. The Phillies and the Dodgers were supposed to be playing baseball. A series that carried weight. A series between two of the best teams in the National League, two franchises that had spent the entire season building toward exactly this kind of moment. The Dodgers, sitting comfortably atop the NL West, 4.5 games clear of the field. The Phillies, riding a surge that had carried them from 12 wins and 19 losses at the start of May to something that actually looked like a contender. This was the kind of series that reminded people why they watched baseball in the first place. And then it all changed. Not because of a home run. Not because of a strikeout. Not because of a brilliant defensive play or a heart-stopping double play. It changed because of one moment, one play that had nothing to do with winning a baseball game and everything to do with settling a score that nobody in the stands had even known existed. Shohei Ohtani was standing near first base. And the Phillies' first baseman made a decision that would end his season before it ever really had a chance to begin. The night had started cleanly enough. It was the kind of late May Friday that feels like a preview of what October could become. The air at Dodger Stadium held that particular tension that arrives when two good teams meet in a series that actually matters. Both dugouts were quiet in the way that dugouts get quiet when everyone inside them understands the stakes. The Phillies sent Jesus Luzardo to the mound. The Dodgers answered with their lineup. And somewhere in the first few innings, Shohei Ohtani did what Shohei Ohtani does. He came to the plate and he made contact. He singled to center in the fourth, an easy loping hit that looked like nothing, the kind of hit that gets lost in the box score. He moved first. He stood in that loose, calm way he has, the way that never looks like he's trying. Then came the moment that changed everything. There was a pickoff throw. A routine baseball play. Ohtani dove back toward the bag. And the first baseman came down. What happened next was not clean. It was not accidental in the way that accidents look. The contact was not soft. It was not the kind of thing that happens when two athletes collide because the game moves faster than anyone can process. The Phillies' first baseman came down hard, and the replay that circulated across every phone screen and every television in America in the minutes that followed told a story that no one inside the stadium wanted to hear. The stadium went quiet first. That particular quiet that feels different from all the other quiets a crowd can produce. Not the quiet of a tense at-bat. Not the quiet of a close play at the plate. The quiet of something wrong. Ohtani stayed down for a moment. Just a moment. Because Ohtani is Ohtani. But the moment was enough. Dave Roberts was out of the dugout before anyone had fully processed what they had seen. The Dodgers manager moves quickly for a man who chooses his moments carefully, and this was not a moment he was choosing to be careful. He crossed the field with the kind of pace that told everyone watching that he had seen the replay in his mind before the replay existed on any screen. The benches stirred. Not the eruption of a full bench clearing incident, not the chaos of the Padres series from last summer, but something slower and colder and in some ways more difficult to watch. Players leaning forward. Players watching. Players calculate. The umpires gathered. There were discussions in that small circle that umpires form when they know that whatever they decide next will be written about and argued over for days. The Phillies' first baseman stood at the bag with an expression that was either calm or blank, and it was impossible from the outside to tell which one it was. Eventually, the announcement came. Ejection. And with the ejection came something else. Something that would follow the Phillies' first baseman off the field, out of the stadium, and into the days that came after. Major League Baseball does not move slowly when it wants to move fast. The review process that followed was not long. The league had the same footage that everyone else had. They had multiple angles. They had the context of the play, the positioning of the bodies, the timing of the contact, and the result of it all. They had the reports filed by the umpires on the field. And when they assembled all of those things and looked at them together, the conclusion they reached was not difficult. The ban that came down was not a suspension of 3 games. It was not the kind of punishment that gets appealed and reduced and quietly served during a series against a team with a losing record. It was the kind of punishment that MLB hands down when it wants to send a message louder than any one game, any one play, any one moment in a long season. The Phillies' first baseman would not be returning to action quickly. And MLB made clear exactly why. Inside the Phillies clubhouse, the silence was different from the one that had settled over Dodger Stadium. This was the silence of a team that had been playing its best baseball of the season, that had climbed from embarrassment to respectability to genuine contention, and had now watched one of its own do something that nobody in that room could defend even if they wanted to. Don Mattingly, the interim manager who had helped turn the Phillies season around, faced the cameras afterward with the expression of a man carrying something he had not asked to carry. He had spent 2 months building something. He had watched his team go 17-8 in May. He had watched Christopher Sanchez become one of the great single-month pitching stories in modern baseball history. He had watched Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber tear through Dodger Stadium like it was a park they owned. And now he was standing in front of a microphone answering questions about a play that had nothing to do with any of it. A reporter asked him directly. What did he think when he saw the play? Mattingly did not answer immediately. He adjusted his cap. He looked down at the table in that particular way that managers look down when they are buying themselves 2 or 3 extra seconds that they know will not be enough. There's no place for that in this game. The room waited. He wasn't more specific than that. He didn't need to be. The words landed with the weight of a man who had spent his entire career inside baseball, who had played first base himself, who understood the unwritten rules and the written ones and the distance between them. There is no place for that in this game. 6 words that said everything about what the Phillies organization felt about what had happened on the field and everything about what they understood was coming next. On the other side of the building, Dave Roberts was still running the calculations. A Dodgers manager's press conference after a win can look many different ways. Sometimes it is brief and efficient, a series of factual answers about pitching decisions and lineup construction before everyone goes home. Sometimes it carries the warmth of a genuinely good night, a game that went the way the game plan was drawn up, a team that did what it was supposed to do. This was neither of those things. Roberts sat down and the first question was not about the final score. It was not about the home run Ohtani had hit in the 7th, a ball that landed in the right field seats and added a run that the Dodgers ultimately did not need but that the crowd had erupted for anyway. The first question was about the play at first base. Roberts' jaw tightened slightly. The story of a man who has managed his reactions for so long that only the smallest ones get through. He began slowly. When asked whether he thought the play was intentional, he paused long enough that the pause itself was an answer. I've watched it a few times now. And I'll say this, in my years of playing and managing, I know what an accident looks like. I know what a baseball play looks like. And I know what a choice looks like. He did not elaborate beyond that. He did not need to. A follow-up reporter asked how Ohtani was feeling after the contact. Roberts' voice shifted slightly. The tightness gave way to something else. Something that looked, for just a moment, like relief. He's okay. He's Shohei. He got up. He kept playing. He hit a home run. A small sound moved through the room. Not quite laughter. Something closer to the exhaled breath of a crowd that had been holding something in. That's who he is, Roberts continued. You can try to rattle him. You cannot rattle him. Ohtani's statement came later. Not at a press conference. Not through a spokesman or a team representative reading prepared remarks. It came in the way that Ohtani's most important statements always come, quietly, directly, and with a simplicity that made it more powerful than any long-prepared speech could have been. He was asked what went through his mind when the contact happened. He thought for a moment. The interpreter waited beside him. "I just wanted to keep playing." The reporter pressed slightly. Did he feel it was intentional? Ohtani's expression did not change. He looked at the reporter with those steady, dark eyes that have become one of the most recognizable faces in American sports, and he gave the kind of answer that only a person of genuine character can give after something genuinely unfair has happened to them. "It doesn't matter what I think about why it happened. It happened. And then I kept playing. That's baseball." The room was quiet for a moment. That's baseball. 4 words. And somehow those 4 words carried more weight than every argument that would play out on television and social media for the next 72 hours. More weight than the statements from the union. More weight than the press releases from the league office. More weight than the analysis and the hot takes and the replays shown from every angle. Shohei Ohtani had been hit. He had gotten up. He had hit a home run. And he had reduced the entire ugly incident to its simplest truth in 4 words. That's baseball. But the league was not finished. The ban that MLB handed down in the hours after the game went beyond what most observers had expected. The language of the official statement was careful and precise in the way that official statements always are, but the message underneath the careful language was not subtle. The league had watched the replay. The league had read the reports. The league had made a determination that what happened near the first base bag on that Friday night at Dodger Stadium was not an accident and was not within the range of outcomes that baseball, even hard-played baseball, is meant to produce. The Phillies' first baseman would not be appealing. There would be no reduction. The ban would stand. What is left, after all of it, is the image that stays longest. Not the contact at the bag. Not the ejection. Not the press conferences and the statements and the official announcements. What stays longest is the image of Shohei Ohtani in the 7th inning, stepping into the batter's box with the same loose calm he always has, taking one pitch, and then sending the next one into the right field seats. The stadium came to its feet. A standing ovation that had nothing to do with the score or the series or even the rivalry. An ovation for the specific and extraordinary stubborn excellence of a man who had been tested by something that had nothing to do with baseball and had responded with the purest baseball answer possible. He rounded the bases slowly. He touched home plate. He jogged to the dugout. He kept playing. Some people spend their entire careers chasing the kind of grace that Shohei Ohtani treated like a baseline requirement on a Friday night in May. The Phillies' first baseman will serve his ban. The league has spoken. The game will move forward. But the image that remains is not the dirty play. It is the home run that came after it. And the 4 words that explained everything. That's baseball.